Vladimir Putin. Reaction to having to wait. Hello, I'm HG Tudor. If you haven't watched it already, you would do well to watch my video, The Narcissist and Timekeeping, to understand more about the way that the narcissist uses timekeeping against you, and then utilizes it in whatever way we choose with regard to our own lack of punctuality, or adherence to punctuality. What is clear, that a narcissist never likes to be kept waiting. Why? It threatens our sense of control. Our time is more important than yours. We matter, you do not. Our time should be utilized for the prime aims, controlling people, drawing in fuel, gaining those character traits and residual benefits. Therefore, if we are stood around like a loose end, not only are we not getting the things that we require, but your tardiness, your dilatory approach to timekeeping, is causing us to look silly. Quite simply, you're telegraphing to us that we're not important, that we don't matter, and therefore it is a threat to control. If you haven't also watched my series on Vladimir Putin, I'd recommend that you do, as I take a detailed look at his past and behaviours to make a determination as to what he is, to help you then understand why he behaves in the manner that he does. And if you haven't accessed that already, and you want to before I continue with this, I'd suggest you pause and go and watch that series and come back to this particular video. Putin is known for utilizing the tactic of keeping people waiting as a means to underline his own sense of importance by asserting control over them. By focusing on something else which takes his attention, he consciously ensures that people are kept waiting in order to unsettle them, in order to demonstrate that he is the doer and they are the done too. And it's all part of that assertion of control and the drawing of fuel. But latterly, this has been backfiring somewhat. And we turn to a report from the Mirror newspaper by Will Stewart and Graham Murray that tells us Vladimir Putin kept humiliated as he is forced to be kept waiting at diplomatic summit. Vladimir Putin has faced humiliation as he was forced to be kept waiting at a summit following his Ukraine invasion. Keeping world leaders waiting has been, until now, a trademark tactic by Putin, especially deployed against Western leaders. As I've explained, that's part of the assertion of control, demonstration of his importance, and the drawing of fuel by way of reactions. And he knows precisely that he's doing it, and he does it deliberately. But increasingly, he is getting a dose of his own medicine as his diplomatic standing has plunged due to his bloody war in Ukraine. He had meetings scheduled with the Emir of Qatar and separately with the President of Tajikistan. But Putin was left chatting with his loyal foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, along with Gazprom boss Alexei Miller and ex-spy and close friend of the president, Igor Sechin, head of Rosneft. Footage showed how Putin was left kicking his heels until Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani arrived for their session. He then had to turn his back to the arriving Emir and scuttle back to his chair as the Sheikh swept in for a handshake. CHTD Telegram channel reported, "The ever-late Putin is now in perpetual waiting. At a summit in Kazakhstan, he was made to wait again, this time by the Emir of Qatar. At another session, Putin was also made to wait, this time by the President of Tajikistan, one of the poorest ex-Soviet states, Emomali Rahmon, who, like the Russian leader, recently turned 70. This time, Putin was left talking to the President of Kyrgyzstan, Sadir Yaparov, ahead of the trilateral session which included veteran ruler Rahmon in power since 1994. The meetings were on the sidelines of the 6th Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia, snappy title, a summit in Astana, Kazakhstan. The session with the Emir of Qatar was billed as a bid to smooth over tensions which have emerged since Putin's partial invasion of Ukraine. The Doha ruler emphasized support for all international and regional efforts to find an immediate peaceful solution to the Ukraine crisis, but also affirmed the necessity of respecting the sovereignty of states. Qatar aims to play a role as a conflict mediator. Yet it voted at this week's overwhelming UN General Assembly ballot to condemn Putin's annexation of Ukraine. Neither Tajikistan nor Kazakhstan, often loyal to Moscow, supported Putin in the vote. They both abstained, a stinging blow to the warmonger, from countries he sees as being in his sphere of influence, on whose support he can normally count. A couple of slaps, therefore, to Vladimir Putin. The first being that he was made to wait, which would wound him, and thus would affect his sense of control. Fury would ignite, but as his position, he has incredible control over that ignited fury, and isn't immediately going to go into a meltdown, ripping off his shirt, beating his chest, and yelling and shouting, and then finding the offender and pulling them in by the hair. Not at all. Nor is someone like Putin going to start whinging and complaining, "Why are they late? They're always late to me, they're horrible." He doesn't dole out the pity plays. That's certainly not his style at all. Of course, there's previous behaviours of this nature. Before, Turkish President Erdogan started the ploy of keeping Putin waiting. At a summit in Iran in July, he delighted Ukrainians with a 48-second snub. But these snubs, what does it do? Well, as mentioned, Putin has his sense of control threatened. This person on his radar, they are not doing what is required of them, and therefore it threatens his sense of control. He needs to gain that control. He could do it directly by calling out, getting someone to go and find them. But that, of course, looks petty. It also looks like he's kowtowing to them, having to search them out, and therefore he will not do that in order to assert control. He may well smear the individual, where he sat with other people talking to them and saying, keeping us waiting, "Well, don't worry, we'll show them." And those around him, the members of his coterie and his lieutenants, agree with that. He won't dole it out as a, "Why are they being so horrible to me? They're all ganging up on me just because I invaded Ukraine." That isn't his style at all. Instead, he will talk in terms of being dismissive. Typical. This backward nation can't even arrive at things on time. Not like us Russians, huh? And then make a joke about it, the coterie laugh about it, and therefore he has that sense of control. But he will, of course, be making a mental note to show this transgressor who's boss. His status, of course, as the type of narcissist that he is, means that not only will he assert control in that moment, but he will record this transgression for the purpose of punishing the individual in some shape or form at a later juncture. In some instances, if he were on his own, he would basically keep control of his ignited fury, telling himself, "I'll deal with this person later." That gives him that sense of control, and again, he makes a mental note to ensure that that individual is punished at a later juncture, perhaps coming out of left field. Of course, at the time, not only will he have made mention of it to those that he is with, but also, of course, the Kremlin will issue a statement on his behalf, and indeed they stated, Kremlin sources claimed Putin had arrived early for the Qatar session. That might be correct, that he has arrived early, in which case there's a utilisation of the truth to nullify that threat to control to be said, "No, I wasn't kept waiting, I was early, because I like to be on time, because that then says that the first move is mine." If, however, it wasn't the case, and he was left waiting, then that is a revision of history, which is being done, of course, to nullify the threat to control. Even someone such as Vladimir Putin is no stranger, of course, to the need for control because of what he is, as I've explained in the separate series. Moreover, he also experiences ignited fury, but it's very rare that you will ever see it, because he has such a high threshold of control over it. But understand, those that transgress against him are dealt with. He makes a mental note, and there'll be some form of punishment that will come in due course. Another question, of course, that arises with regard to Putin and the fact that the war in the Ukraine is going badly for him and how that impacts upon him is whether he's going to go for the nuclear option. I'm going to discuss that in a forthcoming video to let you know whether Vladimir Putin will go nuclear. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.